Today, Noctem esport owner Jack takes the hot seat. We're going to be delving into this man's brain, seeing what his future plans are for Noctem, what got him here. So let's dive straight into it.
Love it.
First and foremost, what made you pursue being an org owner?
So, originally I was in esports like 12, 13 years ago. So I got back into watching it about 6 or 7 years ago. And then when I was trying to watch Call of Duty challenges, I found it so hard to follow, like when the games are happening, like there's no like schedule posted anywhere, and like there was never really any content around challenges. And like me being me, I see an opportunity and I'm like, well, why don't we do that? And it just, I don't know, I saw the opportunity. I'm like, let's do it, let's see what we can do here. And like, obviously we've made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I think we're in a really good spot now of how we want to, I guess, proceed going forwards. Like the type of content that we want to produce, like how we're going to do it, what's the style like, and like what's actually going to be interesting for people to watch. I think that's a big thing, right? Like there's so much potential in terms of storytelling, from like all the way from grassroots esports all the way to the pro scene, that people just don't do. And like you only have to look at the success of YouTubers in general, right, or content creators. Like if you get really good at telling a story and people like what you're doing, like you can make a lot of money and then reinvest that money back into the content that you're producing. And like the whole goal with Noctem really is to like be able to storytell from start to finish in multiple different titles, and like be the drive to survive for esports. We want to eventually be a media company that produces content around our esports team. And I think, I just think there's a huge opportunity there.
Love it. Right, one that many people might not know. What is the reason behind the name Noctem?
So, Noctem, it came about quite quickly, but essentially Noctem is the Latin word for night. Gamers at night, you know, I think Carpe Noctem, seize the night. I think there's loads of synergies there with gaming, or traditional gaming words. And yeah, it's meant a lot to me. So when I was like 16, I got a tattoo that said seize the day, seize the night, and seize everything. It was like a weird time in my life. I was like, let's get it tattooed on me, why not? I'm 16 years old. So I ended up going to this guy's house, laying on his bed while he tattooed me. And then when I started looking around at like other esports teams, there was, you know, like Omnia Esports, which is quite small, but still. Same with like DM, like Carpe DM Esports. But nothing really for Noctem. Like there was a couple of old brand names that were Noctem. But yeah, I think the phrase itself means a lot to me, just because it's been in my life for 15 years on my body. But yeah, I like the word. I think it's short, snappy. I didn't want something overly complicated, and yeah, it's really lots of synergies, I think, with gaming and esports.
Now they know. This next one, biggest struggle as an org owner.
Oh Jesus! I think that there's a few things that come to mind, but number one is probably finding the right people at the right time to do the right job. I think I've struggled with like some of the stuff that, I guess, okay, let me rephrase that. Have an idea, I'm not sure how to do it, I'll hire someone to do it for me. And like my expectation is that if I'm paying someone to do it, they do it to the best of their ability and in a reasonable time frame. I guess number two is like managing the budget. Obviously we don't have sponsors at the moment, so like any money that we spend is coming directly out of my pocket. So like obviously I'm more emotionally invested in the money that I spend compared to the people that are getting it, because at the end of the day, I'm just a client. And obviously being a small org, it's like the people actually care if they do a good job for us. I hope so. I mean, like, look, we've worked with a lot of people already in like 7 or 8 months, and there's lots of like great people that we've worked with. And also like situations for individuals is obviously different. Like, I don't know what anyone else has got going on in their life, but for me, like, it's my money. I work hard for that money, and like, I'm trying to invest it into something that is going to help grow esports as a whole, hopefully. So yeah, money, finding the right people at the right time, and do I have a number 3? I think doubling down on, well, this is probably more on my bad side, but I think I'd rather double down on something if I think it's going to work, and when it doesn't, it hurts a lot more than it would do otherwise. But I think that's going to come with time, right? So like, we'll get to a point where we know when is the right time to cut losses, instead of just doubling down and hoping that it works.
I like it. Insightful. Right, we know this year you've took a step into Apex. What made you make that move into that esport?
So I like Apex, I like the game. I loved it when it first came out, especially. Like, I was just on it non-stop. And Sebastian, who worked with us at the time, came to me with an Apex roster. I really like the way that Apex scene is, in the sense that it's open. Like, if you're good enough, you can go to the big tournaments. I saw a really good opportunity to storytell with the roster that we picked up as well. Like, great people coming from like the South American region, which is underfunded but has an incredibly passionate fan base. And yeah, I think although EA gets a lot of slack, like in terms of their esports, I think they're pretty committed to it. And yeah, like the open system is like huge for me. We were in talks with the guys before they became the South American split champions, and honestly, every time I spoke to them, I was like convinced that this was the project that we want to be in and like put our resources behind. And obviously, like, the chance to play against the best teams in the world, like seeing our logo up on that stage against like your phases, your optics, like, it's just incredible.
Most memorable moment with Noctem in Apex?
In Apex? Okay, so when first game of Split 2 playoffs, the boys drop like completely off script compared to what they were playing in scrims, which I loved. Like, I saw all the effort that Cafe and the team had put into their studying of like the paths that they wanted to take. They drop, win the gunfight, and like there was just like that moment of like pure elation, because I'm like, fuck yes, like you couldn't have asked for a better start. And then obviously they reset the game, so it's a high and a low in the space of about 30 seconds, which is crazy.
A lot of emotions.
Exactly.
Right, Call of Duty, we saw you hit the challenger scene by storm when you first announced yourself as an organisation.
Yeah.
What made you dive into Call of Duty Challengers?
I think Call of Duty has always been up there as one of my favourite games, but two, like, I really enjoyed watching it. Like, it's fast paced. Sometimes like it can be quite hard to track what's going on, but like the more you watch it, the more you appreciate like how good these players are at the game. Obviously, I think most recently when I started watching it was back in Black Ops 3. And like it was just took me. I was just like, yes, let's get involved. And then challenges, again, like I mentioned earlier, I think there's a big gap in terms of what can be done in challenges compared to what's done right now. I think we there's still a huge opportunity there, and I don't think we got it right this year in terms of like the content that we wanted to produce and like the story that we wanted to tell. But I think it was a step in the right direction for us anyway. I love challenges. I think there's so much talent there that obviously like the league's only got 48 spots plus your subs, and like there's probably 200 other Call of Duty players that are good enough. Maybe they're not like at the top level yet, but if you can put a structure in place, be able to tell that story from when like they're playing now to when they're playing in a league in the future, like all of a sudden you've got like a mini documentary about this person who's gone from like nothing to being in the top league. I think for Call of Duty, I don't know. I think there is just a huge market there, right? Like there's a lot of casual Call of Duty fans, there's a lot of passionate like Call of Duty League fans, but in challenges it doesn't yet have the viewership that it could do. Because like I think of it a bit like if you have the in football, right? If you have the Premier League, which is your Call of Duty League, you've got the best players in the world in that league, and then challenges is your championship, but there's no way to get promoted as a team without the whole roster potentially being picked up by a team in the Premiership. I feel I lost my trail of thought while I was doing that. Yeah, essentially challenges, great opportunity. I think great storytelling potential, and there's lots of great talented players in there that haven't been given a chance yet, and I love that.
Agreed. Right, the question many are going to want to know, many have asked this themselves. From an organist point of view, next season in Challengers, how much opportunity do you see there in terms of investment going forward?
Right now, obviously we're waiting for Activision to release the schedule, see what Challengers actually looks like. But I think number one, there does just need to be more support from the league itself. I think the biggest issue we face is there's not many sponsors that want to get involved in that level of Call of Duty because the viewership isn't there. The reason the viewership isn't there is because like the schedule changes every week. Like you can publish a calendar and then within like a week something gets pushed back, or a major gets cancelled, like what happened last year for Challengers anyway. And like there needs to be more monetary incentive. Like you've got some of these players that like in Challengers, if they go to work for 8 to 12 hours a day, they'll come home, they'll scrim for 6 hours, all for like potentially not being able to make a living out of it. Even the players that play like 16 hours a day, like putting the work in, grinding, well, I don't necessarily think that's the healthiest way to do it, but you could do all of that work and not even get, half of like a minimum wage salary. I think from an all point of view, I love Call of Duty, but it's injury in it, it's a loss, right? You look at last year, we had one roster that was like in the elite, so like in Europe, in the elite, some of the like best up and coming players, like in general in that elite, and I'd be surprised if any of them made a profit. And like, don't get me wrong, like orgs should have sponsors that can help like bridge that gap, but if you know you're going into a season, unless you win every event, you're going to make a loss. Like, are you going to want to put in place the structure to do that? It's tough. I mean, we lost a lot of money last year in Challengers, but we wanted to try and give our players the best opportunity possible for success, and like to have content around it. If there was enough growth, like it could have supported that anyway. But I think this is an issue in wider esports as a whole, right? Your revenue streams are like sponsors, which like unless you find the right partners, it's incredibly hard to like get a large sum of money in and be able to deliver what you say you can deliver. Then you've got money from prize pools, which, like, in an ideal world, I wouldn't take that prize money off players, or a percentage of that prize money off players, but like the way that challenges is, you have to, in order to like even get close to profitable. And then content, and like for a small org starting out, obviously you're not going to be able to monetize your content. And then like the way that I believe content should be, we should force it. And like that's why on our socials you don't see us just like posting memes for the sake of posting memes to try and get our interactions up. Like, I'd rather actually just every time we put something out, it's like, okay, one of our creators is doing something really unique, go and watch it. Or like, you know, our announcements and like, or our events that are going on, which hopefully you'll see more of as we get older. But yeah, it's just hard to do that in challenges, and like, I'd love to be in it, but if the prize pool's even lower than it was last year, I think it's like, you'll see probably 90% of the orgs that are in there now just disappear, because unless you're bankrolled by like millionaires, like it just doesn't make sense.
It's a sad truth. What was your most memorable moment with Noctem esports in Call of Duty challenges last year?
Oh, I mean, my favourite was like the team house we had in Toronto. I think it was good fun. I think it was pretty disgusting at some points, but like just having the two teams all under one roof, like it was just really special when you see like the bond between the players, and like me being able to spend that much time with them and figure out more, like understand more about them as people, and like it gets my brain ticking about like the opportunities that we can do content wise going forwards. And obviously, like, I think my favourite bit of content from that was the house tour. I think that was just funny. Obviously you got Dave and Josh doing it, but hilarious throughout. Had lots of fun editing that actually.
Right, to cap it off, what are your plans going forward for Noctem esports into 2024, and where do you see yourself this time next year?
Oh, great question. So I think look, we want to be in like 4 or 5 different esport titles next year. So Call of Duty, Apex, Rocket League, Valorant, and what was the other one? Potentially Rainbow Six or Fortnite by the end of next year. So like we want to be in all of those esports and like on our way to competing at the top. In terms of what I'll be doing, like hopefully we'll have like 3 or 4 people be able to be full-time next year and just be producing content regularly, and working with sponsors that are just like incredible, believe in our vision, and we can bring as much value to them as they can to us, if not more. And like, yeah, and then in terms of our creators, like have an incredible roster of talented creators that are regularly pumping out exciting, unseen content before, like the content super group, which hopefully we'll have news on that soon. Yeah, like when we look at creators, we always look for creators that can offer something different, not just great streamers, but like some people that are like entertaining or on the come up that no one has quite seen yet, or you know, can run tournaments for us and like put on for the community. There's so much more plans that we want to do. Yeah, hopefully you'll see more of that coming soon, but we just don't want to give away too much just yet.
A big fan of it, and that is Noctem esports owner Jack taking the hot seat. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Copy.